We are live with Ball Talk for the fourth time tonight, folks.
Are we live?
It
I'm
is
waiting for.
is this the worst night in Ball Talk history? Maybe. Some are going to say yes,
Are we
and
actually live?
they
'Cause
would
I'm
be
not getting
yes. We
no.
are live.
I think YouTube said, you know what? You're done. You're done. There it is, folks. What is up? Welcome back to Vault Talk. Happy Easter. Um,
Easter stream, and it did not go as planned.
Easter stream. Thank God that God is perfect because we are not. Folks, happy Easter. um, Welcome to live Vol Talk. This is the fourth notification that 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 you diehard Vol Talk fans have received for us going live because we are fumbling tonight. We are fumbling, but you know what? We got our stuff together and we are here to talk all things volunteer sports. That is Austin, and I am Blake, and this is the Vol Talk podcast. And folks, we are going live tonight to react to the breaking news that Nico Iamaleava has officially landed at the UCLA Bruins. The
Correct.
report, all reports indicate that it is for less NIL money than he was making at UT. And so we are here to do. And listen, folks, Austin, this is going to be our last Nico
Last Nico
episode.
episode.
Because listen, it's a big news story. People are going to keep milking it. We don't want to be that channel, okay? We don't want to be the channel that's trying to milk things, just reviews, just throwing out, spaghetti onto the fridge to see what sticks, right? This is our last Nico episode because he has officially gone to the Bruins. And bro, how funny is this? Dude, in our thumbnail is the picture of the UCLA stadium with like hardly any fans in it. How big of a fumble truly was this?
It was a pretty big fumble, man. It was a pretty colossal fumble. He's literally getting paid less to be the UCLA quarterback. He officially committed to UCLA, and it was looking dicey for a while, man. It was looking like that the UCLA deal may never get done. I mean, it was like kind of lingering. Like, okay, it was reported he was going to go to UCLA, and then it was like, oh, it's not official yet. Blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, it's finally done. He's officially a UCLA Bruin, and I think it's a downgrade in every possible sense, every single
Every
possible sense.
1,000%. I mean, how? In what way is it not right? I think the only thing that anyone could possibly argue is that, like, man, he is so done. He just couldn't handle the SEC, and he needs to go home and be back home in Southern California because he couldn't handle it over here. It is the only thing because it's less money. All the reports seem to indicate so far that it's less money. It's dang sure not anywhere near the 4 million he wanted, and even if it's anywhere close to what he was getting at Tennessee, it's going to be significantly less because of the taxes and the cost of living over there, right? So it's less money, which was the whole point of this to begin with, and it's a worse team, a much worse team. People keep talking about like this market in LA in Southern California. It's like, bro, they do not care about UCLA football, period.
No,
Okay. And so it's a lower market or a smaller market, I should say, in terms of who cares about football, less money, worse team, less fans. I mean, in what way and the scheme, right? We're talking about, they keep talking about the offense, Heupel's offense. Bro, Heupel took Hendon Hooker, an afterthought, and Joe Milton and got them drafted, bro.
yeah, exactly.
With a very simple for QB's offense. So please tell me in what way this was an upgrade. It's not.
It's not, dude. It's a downgrade in every sense. Like you said, it's significantly less money. It's literally less money than he was making at Tennessee, and then to your point, plus the taxes. Yeah, they're completely blaming it on the offense at this point, which is absolutely hilarious. I'm also curious why UCLA paid him anything, because at some point, dude, it seemed to me that every team was not interested. Like the three reported teams for a while was UCLA, Tulane, and then I forget the other that dropped out pretty quickly, but Tulane dropped out of the discussion, dude. Tulane wasn't
Dude,
interested. And so who was UCLA bidding against? That's why I don't understand. Who was the bidding war against? Because it felt to me at least, it felt like UCLA was the only team interested after a long period of time. So, and that's why I think it took a while to get done, because like Nico and his team were for some reason still holding out for 4 million after a while, and UCLA was like, listen, guys, we're not paying 4 million. We're the only team interested right now. Like, no one's even like coming to the table. And I think the only reason UCLA is interested is because they're desperate. Like their program has been down for a while. Deshaun Foster, their coach, I know you probably don't know much about him, Blake. He used to play for the Panthers in the NFL as a running back. And dude, his opening press conference was just an absolute joke when he got hired to UCLA. Like, and I kind of felt bad for the guy because I would be nervous in a situation like that as well. And hey, listen, dude, if you look at Vol Talk tonight, listen, we can all fumble at times, like it happens, but. Yep. At the same time, dude, it was a rough look when he got hired. So I think UCLA is just absolutely desperate to shake it up. And as you said, dude, it's not just a worse team and less money. Go look at the fan bases, dude. You used to play in front of 102,000 people every Saturday, and now you're going to be playing in front of about 10,000. And like, to me, like, maybe he wanted the warm weather. Maybe he wanted back in California, whatever. But it wasn't the offense and it wasn't the money at the end of the day, because the money worked out in a terrible way for him.
Well, and that's the thing. I think we know it was about the money. It was about the money. It's just that they completely fumbled it. They completely literally fumbled the bag, right? And they're trying to hold on to the narrative. His family, his team are trying to hold on to the narrative, and they keep changing the narrative, right? It's like it's the offense. First it's the money, and then it's the offense. Well, first it's we're not looking around, right? And then it's okay, it's money, and then it's okay, now it's the offense, and now it's the scheme, and he wants to be at UCLA. Honestly, I'm even surprised, to your point about UCLA, kind of being the only one interested. I'm even surprised that UCLA was interested after what that family did to them with the brother, with Madden going to Arkansas at the last second, right? I mean, why would you want to deal with a family like this?
Yeah. I don't know what Richie's going on about in the chat. I really don't. Some interesting chats from Richie here. Dude, you have not heard. Listen, this is Vol Talk, so we're going to bring a pretty biased viewpoint on this. But any objective NCAA college football analyst agrees with us on this issue, man. Nico and his family were the issue in this deal. They were the issue the entire time throughout the process. And yeah, UCLA's pretty desperate, man. Like, no other team wanted to make this deal. No other team wanted to make this deal, dude. I mean, Tulane said no. Tulane, bro. Like, when Tulane's saying no to the same guy, that screams desperation to me. That screams desperation. A team that hasn't been relevant in a very long time. UCLA needs to shake it up. And listen, from an honest perspective, Blake, Nico still has a lot of upside. Like, he wasn't good last year. That's clear. He was average at best last year, but the tools are still there. So I understand a team like that trying to take a chance on him. And if you took all of the negotiation and the skipping practice and how they handled the situation out of it, then it would be a different situation. But all that baggage that Nico brought to the table is the reason most teams were saying, hey, listen, we're just not interested. We're not interested in the baggage. We're not interested in dealing with his family. We're just not interested in that, because to us, the upside's not worth it. It's just not worth it. So, I mean, that's my viewpoint on the situation. It's been most college analysts' viewpoint on the situation. And again, like we talked to, it speaks to the bigger issue in college football, which is NIL and the implementation of it and how it actually is happening right now instead of how it was intended to happen.
Exactly. And we're going to get to, first and foremost, Richie, we appreciate the support on the channel. We appreciate the engagement, my friend. Share with your friends. take the link and share it with your friends. Get some more viewers in here. We appreciate the engagement. But in terms of the NIL situation, we're going to get to that because Richie's talking about Tennessee setting this precedent, and all. We're going to talk about that. I got to talk about real quick with this whole situation. Something that continues to get lost in the sauce, and people don't seem to get online on Twitter, is the fact that Nico is also just not that good, right? And so in terms of his performance, especially against winning FBS teams, right? It was trash. You all brought some stats when we talked about that earlier. He was like ranked 80th or less in most major QB categories against winning FBS teams. He did not play well against actual decent teams. I'm going to be really interested to see how he does against Big Ten teams. Excuse me,
Yeah, it's
because
not like
they're
the
not going.
schedule gets significantly easier. I
They're
mean,
not going to be. I mean, the Big Ten's not the SEC, but it's right there. I mean,
he
they're going to
plays
be playing.
Ohio State again, and look how he
He's
played
going to be
against
playing.
Ohio State in the playoffs.
Exactly. So, it is not a better situation. But you're right. Here's the deal. Like he was 5 stars coming out of high school, right? We paid him big bucks because of his potential. That potential is there somewhere. I don't know. I don't think it's ever going to get realized. I really don't. I don't think that he has the smarts to and the leadership intangibles to be able to be an elite quarterback after watching him this past season. And so, look, and Richie's saying,
All right,
he's the
Richie.
only,
All right,
he's the
buddy.
he's saying he's the only player he
Dude,
respects on our team. It's because that was the only Tennessee
it's
game that you watched all season.
yeah, it's
The
fine.
whole reason that we
He
were
did
in the
play hard in
playoffs.
that game. I will say that.
He,
He
yeah,
played hard in the playoff game. He wasn't good in the playoff game, but he played
correct,
extremely hard. Now,
correct.
I could see that from a Buckeyes perspective because listen, if you watch that game and we were totally outmatched in that game. And we have the receipts, bro. We weren't making excuses after that game. Ohio State was better, right? Ohio State was better. But part of that was our quarterback wasn't good. Like you can play hard and not be good at the position. Like that's the reality. Like, and I said he played hard after the game. He just didn't play well. So yeah, and listen, and there's also been chatter saying how Nico's the reason we're in the position we're in. Like last year, getting to the playoffs. That's coming from someone who didn't watch Tennessee games, right? And I'm not saying Richie said that. Richie's just going on in a ball talk chat, man, keeping the chat alive. But anyways, talking to himself in that chat too. But anyway, but dude, like you cannot say Nico is the reason we were at where we were last year, right? Making the playoffs, going 10-2, beating Alabama. Like you just didn't watch our team. It was very obviously Dylan Sampson in the defense that got us in the position. I mean, just go watch. Listen, like we covered the NFL draft and the upcoming draftees on this channel, Blake. Go watch our draft video. You'll find out why we were in the position we were in this year. It's because of guys like James Pierce and Omar Norman Law on the defense and Dylan Sampson on the offense in the running game. So,
and especially. Yeah, especially the defense, right? People forget how historic that defense was last year. Now they fell apart against Ohio State because Ohio State was the best team in the country, right? But at the end of the day, that was an excellent defense, and that is what put us in the position to be where we were at. Period. And then of course Dylan Sampson was the best player on the offense. The data is overwhelmingly, abundantly clear on that, right? There is no argument about that. Now, there is argument to be had about, how much potential does Nico still have, right? And so part of the reason we said at the top of the show, and part of the reason we have in the thumbnail for tonight's show is that this is going to be the last episode on Nico, is because we're moving on after this one, right? We went live tonight because we wanted to react live to the news that it's finally official that he's going to UCLA. Right. So it's relevant. But after this, we're moving on from Nico, right? Because we've got quarterbacks on our roster that we care about. We're potentially going to bring one in from the transfer portal, and so we're moving on from him. But, if he was still our quarterback, we were looking forward to this coming season, and he was our biggest question mark. We were like, is he going to progress? Is he going to get better so that we can be, because we know we're not going to have the same level of defense this year that we had last year. It's almost it's a near impossibility that we'll have that level of defense. And so that was our biggest question mark is, hey, can Nico step up and actually become the player that he had the potential to be? And honestly, bro, I have receipts on this podcast of I've had questions about that for honestly probably since the NC State game last year,
And even
right?
taking the performance out of it, dude, you also have to add on the cherry on top, which is what broke the camel's back, if you will, which is the leadership and skipping practice and giving up on his team and all the reason Josh Heupel finally decided enough is enough. We're not going to put up with this anymore. We're letting Nico go. And they have never disputed that, by the way. Nico and his team have never disputed that Josh Heupel made the final decision that he was letting Nico off. Like, he was basically saying, this is enough. Like, that has not been disputed once. So that should tell you what the real issue was here, which was it wasn't just Nico's performance. Because, like, yes, his performance was not good. Like, we gave the stats 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions against FBS winning teams last year, dude. That cannot play. That is not starting caliber. 5 touchdowns with 3 picks, and we had a tough schedule. So those are I think that was 6 games, maybe even 7 games of sample size. So yeah, dude. At the end of the day, the performance wasn't there, and the leadership qualities weren't there, and all the off the field that Nico and his family brought with them. It's like, dude, like they were very delusional about his performance, right? They were incredibly delusional, thought he was way better than he was. And ultimately, the market spoke for itself. Like, where
Exactly.
was the market
Exactly.
for Nico? UCLA was in a bidding war with themselves. Like, yeah, they were in a bidding war with themselves, dude. Also, Richie, bro, go find another chat to be in, man. Like, come on, dude. Get a life, dude. We're doing fall talk here. I appreciate you watching, man. But yeah, it's the SEC, dude. Like, if you're sitting here saying SEC, listen, we didn't have the toughest schedule in the SEC, but like, yeah, give me a break, dude. Any SEC schedule is going to be tough. Now, listen, again, like I said, we didn't have the toughest schedule in the SEC last year. No question about that. But, dude, it's an SEC schedule, bro. Like, any
Well,
SEC schedule is going to be tough to a certain extent. And he didn't perform well in those games. That's my point.
well,
You're losing my point. It's like
exactly.
Nico didn't perform. If you're saying that we didn't have a tough schedule, Nico sucked with that schedule, dude. Like, that's the point. Nico wasn't good with that easy schedule that you're claiming. So, yeah, man.
Exactly.
Come on, dude.
Now
Like, you're missing the point here.
now it's nowhere near as tough as of a schedule as we used to have. Right. And honestly, we were kind of we were a bit relieved that our schedule was the way it was after so many years of just brutal schedules. Right. Now, it was still objectively it's a tough schedule relative to some other teams and some other conferences, right? But exactly your point stands is that the point is against the winning teams on our schedule, Nico was not good, right? So,
Yeah. Dude,
so
Richie,
go
buddy.
ahead.
Come on, bro. Like, come on. Read the room, Richie. Anyways, dude.
That's it's all
Who
good, bro.
is this guy,
No,
man?
I appreciate his support of the channel.
Yeah.
He claims to be cooking us, but hey, you're just you're helping us with the
I
channel
mean,
engagement. So we appreciate it.
you're
So
fixated on the schedule, dude. We're talking about Nico's performance here. Like, we're talking about Nico. That's the schedule. That's the topic, right? We're talking about Nico to UCLA. Like, there was no market for Nico. Why was that? Because Nico wasn't a very good quarterback. And why else was that? Because Nico brought a lot of baggage along with not being a very good quarterback. That's the point. And he's making less money if he was going to stay at Tennessee. Like, he could have made more money if he had just stayed at Tennessee this year. And that's the point, dude, right? Like,
more money for a better program. And
exactly. Clearly
what's
a better
hilarious?
program than UCLA. Come on. Like, get real, dude.
Obviously. And what's hilarious too, Austin, is that the whole reason this whole thing kind of broke wide open, or one of the reasons this whole thing broke wide open, was because they were shopping around behind Tennessee's back, him and his dad, and then all of a sudden Oregon, Dan Lanning, notified
Exactly.
Josh Heupel that it was happening. Because it's funny because they're shopping around to these programs like Oregon, and they got laughed at. I mean, they got absolutely laughed at and literally tattled on because they're shopping around to programs like Oregon and they're getting laughed off the campus because they're like, dude, you threw 5 touchdowns and 3 interceptions against winning teams. No, thank you.
That's
We
not
we
good, by the
we
way.
have a
Like
we have
breaking
a Big
news.
Ten. It's like we have a Big Ten schedule. That, like you said earlier, that ain't gonna play. You
And
know, I mean,
and one more response to Richie, because you keep talking about the president, dude. NIL collectives were paying players before Tennessee did it. So I don't know what you're talking about, dude. NIL collectives existed before Tennessee paid Nico. That's just the reality. And it was going that way anyways. So come on, man. All right, dude. You're out. Bye, Richie. Good lord,
um,
dude. What an idiot.
so so um, all right. So we're
Good
back on
God.
track here,
We
folks.
are back on track. Get Richie
We're ba-
out of the chat. What a moron, dude.
we're back. Hold on.
Absolute idiot.
So we appreciate everyone that is joining right now. We
Yes.
appreciate you guys watching. This is, as we said at the top of the show, this is going to be our last episode on Nico, right? So after this, we're moving on. Right now, what we've been talking about is the fact that there was no market for Nico, right? And and this guy Richie was in the chat. We're not sure exactly what he was going on
Dude,
about.
he's drunk on
Um,
Easter
he,
Sunday, dude. Go get a
I,
life. And we're talking
I
about
guess.
Nico. So that's coming from us.
Yeah, but he was an Ohio State fan. Hey, look, we accept Buckeye fans here too. We get it. You know, y'all need some good Vol Talk content because maybe Buckeye Nation doesn't have as good a content as we do. So welcome Buckeye fans, including Richie. But look, you know, we are going to talk about NIL too. You know, he was talking about, you know, Tennessee set this precedent. The fact of the matter is, like you said, NIL collectives were already paying players. And dude, if Ohio State, it's so funny that it's rich coming from an Ohio State fan because Ohio State
Who has the
literally
highest
had
paid roster?
the highest
Yeah.
paid
What
roster
an
in
idiot.
college football.
But
They
yeah,
had the
dude.
highest paid roster in college football. So, like, but whatever. Like, the point is we're talking
He
about the
got us off
hilarity of
track. Yes,
he
we're
got he
talking
got
about
us off track.
Nico making less money at UCLA than he was going to make at Tennessee, and how they handled the situation was awful, dude. Couldn't have handled it any worse. Since then, Nico posted a farewell message to Tennessee fans on Instagram, right? Farewell message, and people put it in like an AI checker or whatever. Turns out 90% chance that it was written by AI. Not surprised, not shocked whatsoever. And then there's also like this weird discourse about people talking about the Ohio State game and saying that Tennessee fans are saying that Nico threw that game. First of all, I don't know what part of the fan base that's coming from because I don't see that. Now, maybe it's on the message boards. Listen, the worst of the worst fans are on the message boards, dude. Like, screenshots from the message boards are absolutely wild. No legitimate Tennessee fan thinks that Nico intentionally threw the Ohio State game. It would make absolutely zero sense if for him to do so. The reality is, Blake, he's just bad. And that's the funny thing about Nico, like, complaining about that and talking about Tennessee fans accusing him of throwing that game, because it's like, you do realize the alternative to you throwing the Ohio State game is that you were just really, really bad in the game. Like, that's the alternative. Either, and we're not saying this to be clear, either you threw the game or you were really, really bad. Um, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point, Rick. If he thrown the game, it would have been incomplete. That's true, man. He was terrible. Like, he couldn't make a decision in that game. I'm not saying any. Listen, we were outmatched in that game. All Vols fans, all legitimate, because we try to bring somewhat legitimate analysis to the podcast. As long as a troll in the chat isn't throwing you off, we're trying to bring legitimate analysis to the podcast. And the reality is, dude, we were outmatched in that game. And part of that was our quarterback was outmatched in that game. So there's no real Vols fans out there saying that Nico threw that game or whatever. I don't know why Nico, that was the first thing. That's the first thing he came out and talked about, Blake,
Weird.
after all of this
Weird.
situation. Like,
That's
really?
so weird, dude. Like,
That's the
why would
first
that be?
thing you have to talk about?
Well, and it's funny too, right? Because, and I made this, I think I made this point to you, or maybe I just made it to Twitter on some, you know, dumb fan with a bad take. But, you know, I was like, hold on now. This is the first thing he responded to was, joking about, being sarcastic about, him throwing the game. wait a minute, why have you responded to any of the other things, right? Like you're being
Yeah,
greedy and like you threatened to sit out of the game, right? Because if you watch the sleight of hand in his posts on on Instagram, it was, it's talked about him, quote unquote, threatening to sit out of the game and then throwing the game, which no one's ever like. I've not seen anyone saying that, right? And again, like you said, maybe it's on the fan message boards, but literally not heard anything about that. I've only heard
same.
we heard about him threatening to sit out of the game, and then he did a little sleight of hand. He was like, sit out of the game and throw the game, and then the next one he just spoke to throwing the game. Right? Well, wait a minute. So essentially, what you're doing, I'm giving a thumbs up to Discord. There it goes again. Um,
Here we go.
so so what you're saying, Nico, is that you did threaten, or at least your team did threaten to set out of the playoff game, right? Because he didn't sarcastically mock that and say, "Oh, what a joke." Of course, I didn't threaten to sit out of the playoff game. No, he just talked about throwing the game, right? Because he did, in fact, apparently threaten to set out of the playoff game. And what an absolute joke college football is going to become if people threaten to sit out of playoff games,
Agreed,
right? If they
man.
don't get more money. I mean, that's just absolutely wild. But yeah, that was an incredibly bad look by him. That's the first thing you respond to, and it's like literally every Tennessee fan on Twitter, on YouTube, everywhere else is like, we've not seen this. Where has anyone said this? We have no idea where this is coming from.
Totally agree with that, man. It's to throw people off from legitimate criticisms, which are legitimate from Nico. And part of me feels bad for him, right? Because he's getting fed all this stuff from his dad. Most of these decisions are being made by his dad. And
Hmm.
you like in that kind of spot, you feel bad for him because it's like, aren't you supposed to trust your dad? Like you would
Yep.
have to trust him in that kind of situation. But at the same time, he's an adult and he should realize, like Richie in the chat should realize that when 95% of the college football world is saying, hey, you handled this situation poorly. This situation was handled poorly, and we can use that. We have the evidence now, right? Because now you're making less money in a worse
Yep.
situation. Like it's an objectively worse situation at UCLA, less fans, a worse program. No disrespect to UCLA. I have nothing against UCLA because they're pretty irrelevant in the college football space. But less fans, bad program, less money. It clearly didn't work out. Like everything that you did, like all the sitting out of practice and the whole show along with it, it's like it all didn't work out, and everyone agrees with that. So at some point, someone his in his camp or himself are going to have to take responsibility and say, "Listen, we messed up. We're making a lot less money, and our career trajectory." Because, like Blake, to your point in the beginning of the show, Josh Heupel turned quarterbacks who were kind of forgotten by other college coaches. Like they ended up being really good Tennessee players and fall for lives. And what Hendon Hooker did here was legendary. But at the end of the day, had they not come to Tennessee and Heupel's offense, they may have never even gotten drafted into the NFL because that's just where their careers were at when they came here. Like that, their careers weren't on that kind of trajectory. But with Josh Heupel's offense and his leadership, they got there. So like something's weird with that too, right? Like when Tennessee's offense is ranked higher than UCLA's offense in every statistical category, and you're sitting here talking about, oh, it's the scheme's fault. There's also a thread online. I wish we could possibly show this. I'm not going to be able to show it because I don't have it pulled up. But there's a whole thread of Nico missing literally throw after throw after throw, dude. Like I mean, all these wide open receivers, and I'm sitting here thinking because like we did ball talk all last year. We had analysis of every single game. I'm sitting here thinking, well, maybe I gave Heupel too much crap last year because look at all these open receivers that Heupel has schemed up that Nico is literally just missing. I mean, several throws last year. I'm talking about probably he could probably have 10 more touchdowns if he hit the throws that he should have hit last year. So this whole offensive scapegoat, dude, it's just no one with a half a brain cell is actually believing that crap, right? It clearly had nothing to do with the offense.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you bring up about that thread because it's funny, that thread is pretty much just a thread of throws that he missed that would have been touchdowns. Like these were receivers who were wide open and who would have likely been resulted in a touchdown had he hit them in stride, or had he even put the ball somewhere where they could make a play. And so, yeah, obviously Heupel is still able to scheme up, these receivers getting open, and these receivers were able to get open. And honestly, bro, all of this kind of starts to shed a little bit more light on some question marks we had at the end of the season. Why were these receivers transferring? We thought maybe it was an issue with the receiver coach. Maybe we thought there was an issue, some sort of locker room issue or something. Now maybe it's
Could have
that
been
these
Nico.
receivers were like, man, I would rather play with a quarterback who's going to be able to get the ball in my hands, because now my career is getting hurt by the fact that my quarterback can't put me in a position to make a play. Now I don't know. That's speculation, right? But it's certainly a possibility.
Well, here's
You
what we
know,
do know. Mike Matthews think about transferring during the winter time, and it was very it was pretty unclear why Mike Matthews was considering transferring, and everyone thought it was because Nico was considering transferring. Well, when the Nico news broke that he was going to hit the portal in the spring, people kind of expected Mike Matthews to follow suit. Well, the latest on Mike Matthews is he's posting pictures on his Instagram with QB number one, Jake Merklinger, and he has not hit the portal. Now, listen, I'm not going to put my foot in my mouth because the portal is still open. He could
right?
still hit the portal, but it's looking like Mike Matthews at this moment is not going to hit the portal. So was Mike Matthews thinking about hitting the portal because Nico was going to stay? Is that what, like, who knows? Was it that kind of situation? I think that's not completely out of the question. Or maybe not because Nico was going to stay. Maybe it was more so, well, Nico's fighting for more money behind the scenes and like doing all these things and like not showing good leadership qualities and things like that. So maybe that's why Mike Matthews was considering hitting the portal in the winter. But who knows, man? Hopefully Mike Matthews stays. And, I don't know if we're going to be better off at quarterback. Like I've said that before, right? Like as far as like what's next for us, we have still yet to get a portal quarterback. And I think we will. We definitely will get a portal quarterback at some point. The question will be, are we getting a starter or are we getting a depth piece? That's kind of what I've
Right.
said since the news came out that we were looking at a portal quarterback. My guess is right now, listen, it's pretty tough to get a starter in the spring. Like,
Yeah.
right? You got to get a starter in, and he has to learn an entire new offense in basically a semester. Like, I mean, like we're talking about less than 6 months here. He has to learn a completely new offense. So, in my
Mhm.
opinion, I would roll with Jake Merklinger, man. I really would. I mean, he's not like he's a bum player. He's a 4-star coming out. He's been in Heupel's offense now for 2 seasons. So in my opinion, I would roll with that guy, and get a depth piece to back him up. And like I say, man, I don't know if Merklinger's going to be good. He was a 4-star coming out, and as we know, Blake, as we know with Nico's 5 stars, those star ratings don't always matter, right? Those star ratings don't always mean a lot. But listen, he could be better. That's in the realm of possibilities. Merklinger could be better than Nico, and Nico could go to UCLA and become a much better quarterback as well. That's also a possibility. I don't think it will happen. That's my prediction. I don't think that will happen. I don't really have a prediction on Merklinger. I'll have to watch more and just see how he plays. But it could get better. My point is, we could be upgrading at quarterback this year. That's a possibility.
It's absolutely a possibility. We've been talking this whole time since this Nico situation started. Really, since the end of last season, we said, "Hey, Nico is still a question mark. He didn't end up, how we thought he would." And so, is he going to be able to progress this upcoming season? And now that this Nico situation has begun, the question is, okay, like you're talking about, could we potentially upgrade, or is it going to be a downgrade? Who knows? No, we don't know. We're going to get into the season. We're going to know more as the off season progresses, and we start to learn more about Merklinger and McIntyre and whoever we get out of the portal, things like that, right? But this episode we, again, folks, for those of you who are just now joining us, we appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the channel. We appreciate you joining and watching. Go ahead and give us a subscription if you like fall football or all of all sports. We cover everything. And please give us a like, and maybe drop us a comment in the chat. We appreciate Rick being active in the chat here. But this episode, since we went live, has been about we're reacting to Nico going to UCLA, right? And like you said, Austin, there is potential that he goes on and maybe he starts to reach what his potential was, who we thought he could be. The thing is objectively it doesn't look that way because UCLA has less weapons and they have excuse me, a similar schedule in terms of toughness. And so it's not like he's going to go to some easier, softer conference and schedule. Now that UCLA's, if they're still in the Pac-12, it'd be a different story, right? But they're in the Big Ten now. So they're going to have a difficult schedule. They do not have a ton of weapons around Nico. And so all of and the bottom line is, and I have to go back to this for a second, bro. The bottom line is he went there, he left Tennessee because he wanted more money, and the market showed him that it was false, that he was not worth more money, because that has and what his team has always been trying to do. It's classic, bro. It's classic. They try to change the narrative, right? They keep trying to shift the field goal posts, no pun intended, right? And they're trying to, control the narrative and keep changing, what this was supposedly about. At the end of the day, it was about money, and he's getting less money. Why is he getting less money?
Yes.
Because the tape shows that he did not perform to his 5-star potential.
Because people aren't
Period.
going to pay 4 million for an average quarterback, dude. That's the
They're not
reality. And
for a
and
barely average quarterback.
and to my point earlier about us getting a portal quarterback and needing to learn a new system, that also applies to Nico, man. That's
Yep.
why these spring transfers and transfers in general, dude, especially at the quarterback position, just don't tend to work out when you transfer year after year because you have to learn a new system every single time you transfer. It's a whole new offense you have to go into, and with whole new teammates, with whole new chemistry. And trust me, dude, it is a fact that some of those teammates in that locker room will not like how Nico handled the situation. It was very clear the reaction that Nico got from former players and current players by holding out and trying to renegotiate a new contract. And during the spring, right? This is in the middle of spring ball before the orange and white game. Everyone had the same reaction to that, man. So there's going to be players in that UCLA locker room that don't appreciate it. So who knows how it's going to work out for him there. I mean, listen, I'm not at this point, like this is the last time we're covering it, so I don't really care at this point. But I'm not rooting for the guy. I'm just not. I'm not rooting for the guy because if he had done all this not publicly and he hadn't went behind UT's back and said, hey, let's shop around, kind of like Mike's saying in the chat, go to California and let's shop around a little bit without actually telling anyone we're doing it, and then holding out a practice, and then his dad calling the reporter a bitch when the reporter was correct, and all this, like, had all that extra baggage not been along with this, I would have been like, okay, whatever. Nico's gone. He renegotiated. I would have been bitter towards the situation, but I wouldn't feel the way I do right now, which is I'm not rooting for him in the future because why would we root for a guy like that, dude? Like, we want people who want to be here at the end of the day, and he obviously didn't want to be here. I don't think they really ever wanted to be here, man. I think that's probably one reason they're going back to the West Coast, that they kind of regretted the decision to begin with to come to Tennessee, and maybe they just didn't fit in here or whatever. But reality is, man, we're talking about an average quarterback that the market said, hey, we're not paying 4 million. You're not worth 4 million to us. And it backfired terribly, dude. I mean, this situation backfired in the biggest way possible for Nico and his family, dude. I mean, which, it's deserved, right? Like, because they just handled it in the worst possible way,
Exactly.
man. In the worst possible way.
And about your point about the teammates at UCLA, you got to think, especially at UCLA, there are plenty of guys in that locker room who are not getting paid. They're not
Absolutely.
getting paid. And to have a guy who sat out and quit on his previous team in order to get money that he didn't deserve is a really bad look for your teammates who you're coming into, right? Especially the ones who are working their butts off to get a traditional scholarship and to just get their school paid for. You know, we're not even talking about possibly getting NIL money on top of that. And then this guy comes in and he's going to be their starting quarterback now. And like you said, he's got to learn this system. It's going to be interesting to see, if he is going to be able to learn that system and perform any sort of way.
Because they have to
Um,
start him, right? You just paid the
I
kid
mean, you can't
2 million or one point
exactly.
seven five million. You have to start the guy. Like,
You have to. And let's be clear too about. I want to make this point too, Austin. Let's be clear about the amount that he is getting paid by UCLA. Again, I'm seeing reports between 1.75 million and 1.9 million. The point is
is less.
he's making less than he did at UT, and it's significantly less because of the state taxes, because of the cost of living. Everyone knows this, right? But the point I want to make is let's be clear too that the reason he's getting paid that at all by UCLA, anywhere near that amount by UCLA, is not because he somehow showed on the field that he is a $2 million quarterback. The
No,
reason he's getting paid that is because
they're
they
desperate.
still A, they're desperate. B, his family are greedy, and they probably wouldn't sign on the dotted line until they met some sort of number. And then C, uh they're still investing in the potential that he had coming out of high school. They're still investing in that 5-star potential, right? They've still got this idea. And again, we've said on this podcast several times, he did have flashes of being a good quarterback last season. He had some good plays. We're like, man, this was a great play by Nico. The second half of the Alabama game, he finally kind of woke up and played well. All these different things, right? And so they're investing in that potential that they see, or that people thought he had coming out of high school, is what they're investing in on top of the difficult position that they're in. And at the end of the day, we're going to see if it works out for him. But the thing is, it's it's going to be interesting to see how his teammates feel about that and how he's going to be able to perform.
I agree, man. And again, it could possibly work out. I think without all the baggage attached, it wouldn't be that bad of a risk, right? It wouldn't be that bad of a risk betting on those tools and whatever. But you also have the baggage, which are apparently some people just think is a non-issue. But those some people we got out of the chat, so it's all good. They're gone forever. But anyway, yeah, I mean, and UCLA is desperate, dude. I mean, nobody goes to the games, man. Look at the thumbnail. Look at what we use. Like, that's a nobody goes to UCLA home games, dude. It's pretty sad. And maybe it'll energize the fan base. And listen, we have Ohio State fans in the chat defending the situation. Where's the UCLA Bruins fans? If you're a UCLA fan, let us know. I have nothing against UCLA whatsoever, by the way. And if you were just getting the tools of Nico, like you were just getting that quarterback, even with the subpar season he had last year, I would be pretty excited as a UCLA fan. I'd be like, okay, listen, I'm getting this toolsy guy with a 5-star, rating coming out of high school, whatever. But that's not all you're getting. You're also getting Big Nick, his dad, and everything that comes along with that, man, and which is a lot, man. That's a lot. And maybe they'll fit in better over there, or maybe they'll somehow humble themselves, but it didn't work out here, dude. And I think it's for the better. At the end of the day, dude, I really do. I think it's gonna be for the better for our program because Hypo made a tough decision, but he made the right decision. He made it swiftly. And listen, it takes a lot to make that decision Heupel made because it's not just that you're setting a president. Oh, so okay, I want to get this guy who skipped practice off the team, whatever. It's also saying we're okay with wasting our $4 million investment we've already put into the guy. Right, you
Hmm.
already paid the guy not to play his freshman year outside of the bowl game and a couple garbage time games, and you paid him for one season where we made the playoffs. But like you say, man, any UT fans in that chat know that our playoff run was 100% on the back of Dylan Sampson and our defense. So really, our $4 million+ investment, Nico, really didn't work out, man. Yet Heupel still made the tough decision to say, "Hey, we're not going to take this. We're putting our foot down. We're not gonna deal with this renegotiating crap." And they set a good standard going forward for college football.
1,000%. And it's hard, and most everyone seems to agree with that, right? In terms of the college football world, fans of other fan bases are supporting us and saying, hey, this was the right decision by Heupel. Now, Josh Pate made a great point on his segment on this when this situation first, broke back a week ago or whenever it was. And it's that he said that there are no winners in this, right? And so don't get us wrong. The fact that we as Tennessee, invested for, like you said, over $4 million in Nico for nothing, certainly doesn't make us a winner, right? In terms of this situation. Now, it doesn't change the fact that Josh Heupel made the right decision, and sometimes you have to cut your losses, and sometimes you
Agreed.
have to, you have to say, hey, look, despite the fact that we've got this much money, because there's a fallacy where, and this is in gambling, and this is in a lot of different things. It's a human psychology thing where it's like when you have so much invested in something, when you've lost so much in something, you tend to want to stay in it until you can recoup those losses, right? It's a fallacy that we as humans tend to get locked into. Josh Heupel didn't get locked into it, right? He made the
True.
right decision and cut the losses when we could. But it doesn't mean that we're better off for it. In terms, or it doesn't mean we are better off for it now, given what we know about Nico. But in terms of, look to, to the point about the NIL situation and things like that, knowing what we know now, would we have wanted to invest over 2 million a year in this guy? No, obviously, if we knew what we knew now, we wouldn't make that decision, right? And so we got burned by that. But that's the reality of college football right now, man.
Yeah,
That is the
exactly.
reality of college football, is that you have to pony up this money to get these players, and maybe they pan out and maybe they don't. And unfortunately, Nico didn't pan out, and unfortunately, we dropped over 4 mil on the guy, and it didn't work out. But hey, good on Heupel for saying, you know what? No, 4 million a year. Are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me? That's just it was mind boggling how they handled that situation. So,
Yeah.
folks, go ahead, Austin.
Trey's making a good point in the chat about adding a quarterback for competition. That's kind of what we've been talking about, Trey. How we're gonna add a portal quarterback, but the question is, it's the offense. That's hilarious. We're gonna add a portal quarterback. The question is it gonna be a starter? Is it gonna be a starter, or is it gonna be a guy for competition? And I agree, man. I mean, listen, Jake Merklinger is a 4-star quarterback who has already been in Heupel's system. And I think the players like him, man. Like Mike Matthews is posting pictures with him on Instagram, and Ethan Davis is message retracted. Interesting. Anyways, Ethan Davis posted a picture with him on his Instagram as well. So I think the players like Merklinger, dude. And if the guys are getting around Merklinger in the locker room, like if they're coming together around Merklinger, they need to lean into that. They need to develop him. Let him take the starting reps in practice, in my opinion, because I don't know if it would be great for our locker room right now after the Nico situation, because it would kind of be hypocritical in a way, kind of, because like it's not like anyone's handling it like Nico handled it. But if we went out and paid a portal quarterback like 4 million to come be the starter,
Right.
it would kind of feel a little dirty in a way. So I'm kind of starting to lean into, hey, let's just go get a guy for competition, like Trey made at that point in the chat, and let's go get a third guy on the roster, because we can't just have 2 quarterbacks on the roster. You need at least 3 on the roster. So they do need to get somebody, but I don't think it has to be a starter. And I think that's unrealistic expectation too, because it would take a lot for a starter or for a guy to come in the spring, learn Heupel's offense in 6 months, and expect to be a legitimate, good starter for the team. I think that's a pretty lofty expectation.
1,000%, man, 1,000%. And Trey continues to make a good point about, hey, give me a team 4-star guy over a 5-star diva all day, every day. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, that's what we're hoping. Merklinger, like you're talking about, Austin, we kind of are seeing the evidence that is the kind of guy Merklinger is, right? Where he's a 4-star guy, but he's a team. It looks like he's a team guy.
Team player. Yeah.
He's freaking posting a picture of going to church with Mike Matthews on Easter Sunday, man. Like, that's
the kind of
what a
guy I
leader.
want, man.
That's exactly. That's the kind of leader you want. You want a QB who's going to lead your team and be with your teammates and be there for your teammates.
I think a lot of Vols fans expected Merklinger to transfer in the winter, dude. I think a lot of fans expected that, because they're like, listen, this is a guy who could go start somewhere else, but he knows Nico's on the roster, so he knows he's not going to start here, or at least he thought he knew that. Of course, things have changed since then, but So, but he chose to stay here. So, what does that tell me? He chose to stay. Well, that means he wants to be here. And I want a guy playing quarterback here that wants to be here, dude. I think that's pretty obvious at this point that that's the way to go. Um,
1,000%. Folks, listen, we appreciate everyone who is joining us for this live stream. If you're just joining us, we are just live reacting to the news that the situation with Nico has finally been decided, because it was up in the air for the longest time that, is this deal going to get done with UCLA? And as we've seen with the situation, Nico's team is not easy to deal with. And so they were, I'm sure, giving UCLA the business in terms of, not wanting to sign a contract until they got more money. But it is now finally officially done. Nico has officially posted on his socials that he's committed to UCLA, right? So we're live reacting to that. So we appreciate y'all joining us for that. Please, if you haven't already, consider giving us a subscription, drop a like on the video, and we appreciate the engagement again from Rick, from Trey, everyone in the chat. We appreciate you guys.
And Darvis, if you were just joking around, man, if you're a Tennessee fan and you're just joking around, that's fine. But it was not the offense, brother. And maybe you were joking because we're joking around about it too. But yeah, Nico did not transfer because of the offense. I think if Tennessee agreed to pay him $4 million, he would have stayed here. I think that's the reality.
Well, because the reality is that it was about the money. That's like we
and Heupel made the decision, Blake. Heupel made the decision. Heupel pulled the plug. So if Nico got his $4 million, I think he would have stayed. And going to a team that has literally in every statistical category is worse than Tennessee offensively. And we talked about the quarterbacks that Heupel's had drafted and everything, if you've listened to the stream. So yeah, man, I mean, the offense excuse was just like a last hail to get kind of a last ditch effort to get the like public back on their side. And people just didn't buy it, dude. People just did not buy that whatsoever. So,
and at the end of the day, I truly believe. Obviously, we don't know all the details, right? We don't have sources like some of Vol Nation on Twitter, likes to talk about their sources and stuff. We don't have any sources, but at the end of the day, my conjecture is that what happened is this backfired spectacularly in their face, right into Nico and team's face.
Thanks for watching, Rick. Oh, I got the 5-star hearts, the old Bush Jones quote.
5-star heart. We appreciate it, Rick. Hey, drop us a subscription if you haven't already. Thanks for the support. But at the end of the day, what I think happened is this situation backfired like they were not expecting in a million years. It backfired so spectacularly. And so what happened is now all of a sudden they're in the market. They're getting told no by the likes of Tulane and UNC. Bill Belichick, the cheater himself.
UNC, that was the other team that said no.
And all of a sudden, now you have to try to salvage, because again, they're not going to admit that they were wrong. They're not going to do that. No. And so what you have to do is you have to salvage it. You got to fall back on UCLA, and you're going to take a pay cut. And so how do you soften the blow of just absolute embarrassment?
Well, because
exactly.
We haven't brought this point up on the show, but we brought this up on one of our other shows about Nico with Dakota, how the offense, you do realize Nico was recruited here for 2 seasons, right? Like he was recruited here for 2 full seasons. You didn't know what the offense was? Like you didn't bother to look into what the offensive scheme was? Like that doesn't make any sense. And then a year after, or actually 2 years after you've been on campus. So you've been exposed to Josh Heupel and his scheme now for 4 seasons. Like you've been recruited for 2 and you've played in it for 2. And now you want him to change it in the spring, Blake, not in the winter, not after the season. He wants to change it the day before the orange and white game. Right. Yeah, we're not going to buy that, bud. Like, nice try, good try, but no one with a half a brain cell would possibly buy that excuse. Come on.
Exactly. It was, again, I mentioned earlier, and I won't go into it again, but I mentioned earlier that it's just a classic case of, they keep switching the narrative, right? They keep throwing stuff out there to see if any spaghetti is going to stick against the fridge, right? By trying to change the narrative and say this or say that. At the end of the day, it was about the money, and it backfired because now he's getting less money. And that is frankly hilarious because, like you said,
it is funny, man.
if it was handled any other way, I wouldn't be so down on the guy, down on Nico, right? Some people say he's a nice kid. Maybe he is. Seems kind of dopey to me, but maybe he's a nice kid, right? But at the end of the day, if it was handled any other way, we wouldn't be laughing at this. But now it's freaking hilarious, man, because you wanted more money and now you're getting less money for a worse team. And that's the bottom line. That's objectively the facts. So,
Man, I wish Trey was here in the chat when Richie was going off earlier, man, talking about how SEC schedules aren't tough, man. That guy was an idiot. I'm glad, and Richie could still be watching too, man. He's obsessed with Vol Talk. So, if Richie, if you're still watching, thanks, bud. But we can't see your chats. So, if you're trying to chat away, we can't see it. But yeah, Trey's making great points, dude. Because listen, dude, not all guys can cut in the SEC, and I think that was clear. I don't think Nico and his team wanted to be here. And it's interesting because the North Carolina conversation, I wish we knew the behind the scenes of that, because I think North Carolina actually would have been a better landing spot for Nico and his development. If I'm being completely honest, I mean, you're going to play for one of the best football coaches of all time. So obviously that would have been a pretty good situation for him. But I wonder what happened with that. Was it more so like Nico wasn't getting the offer he wanted as far as money? Because North Carolina went with this South Alabama quarterback, dude. The South, and no disrespect to the guy could be good. I don't know him. I watch college football for literally 12 hours at plus every Saturday in the fall, dude. And I just don't know him. Shout out to my wife in the chat, by the way. Wish you were in here too when Richie was going off. But anyway, point is that was it about the money for Bill Belichick in North Carolina, or was it Nico just wanted to get out west, dude? It kind of feels like Nico just wanted to get back out west in the warmer weather, and like Richie said, possibly an easier schedule. Although they do have Ohio State on the schedule this year, man, and how he played, or excuse me, I said Richie, I meant Trey. Yeah, man. Listen, dude, I think that was definitely it. Although I am going to be tuned into that Ohio State game, Blake. I hate Ohio State. I really do. But dude, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be hate watching Nico a little bit in that game.
Well, honestly, I think Vols fans would be lying if we didn't all agree with you on that. At the end of the day, that's going to be one of those game situations where I'm going to be rooting for the stadium to collapse into a sinkhole when that game happens, because I don't want Nico to win and I don't want Ohio State to win. Let's be honest. The Bruins, you can go ahead and listen, roast me if I'm wrong about this. Please roast me if I'm wrong about this. Put it on the internet right now. Put it on the internet right now. The UCLA Bruins are not beating Ohio State. Period. End of story. They're not winning. Okay. So
yeah, that's not a bold prediction. I mean, the question is the UCLA Bruins going to make a bowl game? I mean, that's the kind of the debate that needs to fire up in the chat. Do you all think the UCLA Bruins will make a bowl game with Nico at quarterback? I'm leaning towards no, but they might sneak in 6-6. We need to pull up the UCLA schedule. Somebody get the UCLA schedule up and let's see that full thing. Because I mean, I don't know, man. Again, I'm not rooting for the kid, and I'm not, because of how the situation was handled. I just can't root for a guy like that, because we have plenty of transfers this year, right? We've had guys transfer out, and Vol Nation has showed a lot of those guys a ton of respect. But if you're gonna treat us the way Nico and his family did at the end of and the reporter and everything, how they handled the situation, I just can't root for a guy like that, man. To me, you're not a Vol. And he said he was a Vol. He gave his all at Tennessee. I in his Instagram post that was written by AI. I just don't buy it. I do not buy it.
Austin, I've got the schedule pulled up here for the Bruins. It's not looking good for the Bruins. They start off the season against Utah. They then will play UNLV.
Loss. UNLV is pretty solid.
Then they're going to play New Mexico.
He's probably squeaked that one out by one touchdown. Nico throws a couple picks, but they'll sneak it out by a touchdown.
Then they've got Northwestern. And then
that's going to be a nail biter. I'll give them that one. 2-2.
It's going to be a pick me, or pick 'em. The next one, they've got Penn State.
Loss by a lot.
Michigan State.
Loss.
Maryland.
Loss.
Indiana.
Loss.
Nebraska.
Loss.
Ohio State.
Loss.
Washington,
Loss.
and then USC.
Oh my, dude, they're going 2-10. Oh my, Nico transferred to go 2-10. Are you kidding me? What? That's crazy, dude. I wouldn't have. Ah, man, that's crazy. 2-10 for for the Bruins next year. Good luck, Nico. Good luck.
Folks, we're having a lot of fun on this podcast. We appreciate you joining. I need to go to bed, but we keep getting new viewers in here, so we
We're just
appreciate you
goofing
joining.
around, man. We're just having a
We're j-
fun time.
we're
We're not
we're
being
just having a fun time.
we're not giving legitimate analysis right now. But hey, man, the Nico
Well,
situation, it's over. We're done with it. Final
exactly, because
stream.
this is our last episode on it, so we got to have a little fun. Because again, look, folks, if you're just joining us, we would appreciate you supporting the channel. We're not going to keep milking this situation. We did one recorded episode on it. As we were dropping that recorded episode, when all of this news first started breaking, the news officially broke on that Saturday morning that he was out, and so we went live as the recorded episode was dropping. And then we brought in, a few days later, we brought in special guest Dakota, a friend of ours, for some additional analysis. And we had that episode. And then now we're having this one final episode on this Nico situation, right? There's other channels out there who are going to milk it because it's a big story. I get it. But at the end of the day, we don't want to stay focused on the past. We want to stay focused on the future of Vol football. And I do still think the future is bright because, again, at the end of the day, we definitely think Merklinger could be an upgrade. And so the time will tell on that. But we're having fun right now, folks. It's looking like UCLA
I like that
might go 10
suggestion
and
for
2.
David Polk. Let's do a little trade for the UCLA quarterback. We'll get him in here and let's see who has the better season. I like that
That
idea. He might be
that would be
Merklinger's backup, but I like that idea.
That would be hilarious if we did that. That would be very funny. Yeah, and that would be a great test regarding if it's the offense or not, right? But
The
anyway,
offense.
we're
What a crazy excuse. The offense. You do realize you were the quarterback of that offense, right? Maybe he doesn't get
exactly.
that. Like you were quarterbacking the offense. There was open receivers and you missed them. You like you're a part of that, but it's fine. They're never going to take responsibility for it. And my guess is, if I'm being completely honest, dude, completely honest, this is total honest analysis at this point. This will not be the last time Nico transfers. He'll probably transfer 2 or 3 more times in college. He will never have an NFL career. That's just my guess. These things do not work out most of the time for these players that do this, and I think that will be the case for Nico.
Yeah, there's not a good history of. I mean, there's some players who have had success transferring, but it's really just not. It's kind of few and far between. And so, look, and he transferred to UCLA, man. I mean, the season they had last year, and it's not getting any easier this season. We just predicted that they're possibly going to go 2-10.
Dude,
I mean,
we've been streaming for an hour about UCLA's new quarterback, and not a single UCLA fan has showed up. Not a single. We've had Ohio State fans. We've had my wife who doesn't watch football. We've had other Tennessee fans. Not a single UCLA fan hello UCLA fans. Are you out there? Hello, anyone? No one's out
and
there, dude. They don't watch football over there.
and again, for the 5 of you that exist, there's no disrespect, right?
No.
We don't have anything against UCLA. Unfortunately, you're getting a dirtbag of a quarterback. That's what we have a problem with right now.
But the question is, if Nico throws an interception in UCLA stadium and nobody sees it, did it ever happen? That's the question. When he's throwing pick sixes at home in the UCLA stadium and they got 5,000 fans in attendance, those interceptions don't count because nobody actually saw it. So
that is the great philosophical debate that has raged for hundreds of years. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get an answer to that philosophical question because, again, no one's going to be at the UCLA games. So that's the situation we're at. David says that Arkansas should be nervous with Madden. Yeah, and we talked at the top of the show that it was interesting that UCLA even dealt with the Iamaleava, the Iamaleava family, because it's funny now that you look back on it. Madden left UCLA too before
In the final
But
hour
Nico, like I
of
said,
signing day, by the way, like the final
it's
hour, he gets up and leaves UCLA, and they
it's
want
it's
to
a
deal with that. And
it's a pattern with this family. Are you kidding me?
and Richie in the chat wants to say UCLA wasn't desperate. That guy's an idiot, man. If you're still
Listen,
watching, you're a complete idiot, Richie. I'm just gonna be honest. He is. He's an idiot, man. Just admit it. Blake doesn't want to admit it, but he is. He's an idiot. UCLA is desperate, dude. Totally desperate. That's
a
why
thousand
they
percent.
signed Nico. Let's just be
A,
honest, man.
1,000%. We're still not sure why Richie, the Ohio State fan, loves Vol Talk so much. We appreciate the support. Listen, I think Ohio State probably is a little obsessed with us as a fan base after we as a fan base took over their stadium, right? And
Ooh.
look, it doesn't matter how like the team let us down, unfortunately, but the fact of the matter is this fan base is an on fire fan base, and we took over and made Neyland North this past playoff season, and so I guess that's why Ohio State fans are obsessed with us, or maybe it's the algorithm is still serving them Tennessee stuff because they maybe watched some Tennessee stuff when we played them in the playoffs. Regardless, Richie, we appreciate you supporting the channel, but he is in fact gone,
He's
and we've
gone,
got.
baby. Bye, Richie.
Well, completely. Listen, this was a rough start to this episode, folks. For those of you who are just joining us, honestly, you probably waited to join the live stream because we went live about 4 times because we kept fumbling, much like Nico's family fumbled his transfer. We fumbled the start of this episode, this live stream. And so we appreciate y'all finally making it. And then Richie got us off track at the beginning. He was talking about all this nonsense. But at the end of the
But
day, everyone
thanks for the
realizes.
good chatters like
Thanks
Rick,
for the good chatters
Trey, and David, and my wife. Appreciate the
e-
good
e-
chatters in the chat.
even Callie, the wife of Austin. We appreciate the good chat. It's been a fun episode, Austin. But man, I don't know. It's fun. I want to keep talking about this because it's so fun, laughing about how UCLA might go 2-10.
It's in the
And we
realm of
lost.
possibilities, man.
It's in the realm of possibilities. Any final word on any of this, the NIL situation and Nico's transferring?
No, ultimately, man, I think it was probably better for the sport. Oh, Callie just wants to use my computer to play games. Anyways, I think it was. Listen, I think the Nico situation was good for the sport overall because I think the NIL thing. I think this could be a turning point in NIL and how players handle these situations and how teams handle the situations. So long term, I think it could be good for the sport. And as far as us, we're done with Nico talk. Like we may make fun of them in the middle of an episode if UCLA does go 2-10, but we're done with the Nico talk. It's on to us now, right? We're looking at who's going to be quarterback one for this roster, who's going to be the starter come fall. We still are looking for a portal quarterback. We will keep you all updated when we get a portal quarterback, of course. But right now, man, I'm moving forward with Jake Merklinger, man. I'm not going to be unrealistic with my expectations. I have, I don't know. That's the reality, dude. We won't know until we see him. But I think we have a reason to be somewhat excited because he is a 4-star guy. He's been in Heupel's offense for 2 seasons, and he wants to be here. And that's the biggest point of emphasis right now. He wants to be here, and we want guys who want to be here.
When players at the University of Tennessee walk out of the locker room, there's a sign above their head that says, "I will give my all for Tennessee today." And it embodies what football and all team sports are about, which is that you come together as a team in a competition and you're locked in competition in battle against another team. And sports were invented as a way to essentially simulate literal war, right? And two teams come together to compete and see who the better team is. And a team is not going to win if there's one player or multiple players who think it's all just about them, right? Or if there are multiple players who are not bought into the team, because the team becomes greater than the sum of its parts, right? That's why we have old adages, old cliches like there is no I in team. And at the end of the day, what you said at the end there was hitting the nail on the head. We want people who want to be a Tennessee Vol. We want people who want to give their all for Tennessee each and every day. And that doesn't mean that people can't make money. We're not saying that. right? We're not saying that people aren't gonna, college players can't make money now. The point is that Nico and his family were greedy. It backfired on them. Very obviously, it's quite hilarious. We've enjoyed laughing about it tonight. And now we get to move on with people who actually want to be a part of this team. Like Trey said, that's a great way to end it, right? Who do you want to go into battle with? And obviously, someone who's going to sit out of practice and quit on you to try to get more money that he doesn't deserve, that's not someone you want to go into battle with. I want to go into battle with the guy who is going to go to church on Easter Sunday with me and be out there doing live with me. Okay. Uh, so we ride with Jake Merklinger.
Yes, sir.
We ride with
QB1.
McIntyre. We ride with Faison Brandon, who's coming to campus later on after this season. The future is bright on Rocky Top, folks. Folks, we really appreciate everyone joining us in the chat again. Trey, David, Rick, even old Richie. We appreciate. Richie is now
You know
cemented
he's still
into.
watching, right? You know
You know
Richie's still watching.
he
He's hate watching it. He wants to chat so bad, but you can't, Richie. You can't chat anymore because when you're an
listen.
idiot in the chat, you can't chat anymore, man.
We yeah, he listen, everyone loves him some Vol talk. So we really appreciate everyone joining. Callie, we appreciate that question. We are going to be dropping our regular episode later this week, probably on Tuesday it'll drop. We are going to cover the base Vols and their series this
Ooh.
past weekend. Unfortunately, it wasn't great, but we are going to be covering volunteer sports as always every week. Y'all can expect weekly episodes from us. So if you're just checking out Vol Talk, please go ahead and consider subscribing. We drop weekly episodes on all thing Vol sports, including our volunteer baseball team who are defending national champions, Austin. So
Yep.
a lot of fun stuff to talk about. Y'all, I think that's going to wrap it up unless you got any final comments. I know
No,
that the
man.
chat is still rolling
I
here.
like, yeah, I love it. I love the chatters in the chat, man. I like the positivity. I like David's chat saying bringing gas pipe back, dude. Let's roll with Gaston. I don't hate it, dude. At least as a backup option, man. He's a guy who knows the offense. He's still in the portal. I think that wouldn't be an awful option to bring in it for a depth piece. So, but yeah, appreciate everyone watching. Appreciate everyone chatting. Not a super serious stream today, just kind of joking around about the Nico situation, but we appreciate y'all watching.
Yeah, it was fun, folks. I know we got off the rails here and there with the chat, especially for you folks who might end up listening on Spotify later or watching this episode after the fact. You're going to be wondering about how we got off the rails. But look, it's all in good fun. We're having fun laughing about this situation with Nico taking a pay cut, going to the UCLA Bruins. What a move. What a
Congrats,
move.
Nico. Congrats. Have
Congrats.
fun playing in front of 5,000 fans.
Congratulations, Nico, on the massive loss. Folks, again, we are going to catch y'all here in a couple days with our coverage of the baseball series this past weekend. We'll see you every week. Until then, as always, baby, go Vols.